Hey, hello everyone. Welcome. Good morning. My name is Lisa Tiffin, and along with Mitchell Iwasa, who's hiding behind the screen, we have the pleasure of being your host today on behalf of the Brooks Newell region. Before we get started, I'm going to do a quick door prize. We already pre-entered everybody's name in here. Make it very easy. Hey, first winner is Barb Kulik. Where are you, Barb? Yay. And the second one is Jessica Surgener. Congratulations. I'd like to take a quick moment to recognize some of the partner organizations that we work with here in the Brooks Newell region. We have representatives here today from the Village of Dutchess, the Village of Rosemary, the Town of Bazzano, Eastern Irrigation District, Grassland School Division, Brooks Region Tourism, Community Futures Entrecourt, Medicine Hat College, and Travel Alberta. So thank you everyone for joining us this morning. A few quick things before we get started. Washrooms, if you haven't already found them, are out the door and down the hallway. There's also an emergency exit right here at the front. Our delegates won't be taking any questions today, but they may be available for a short time after the event. We wanted to keep this as an address, not necessarily a forum. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which includes the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation District 4, and all the people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We make this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. So with that being said, I know it's no shock to the people in this room just how important land truly is to our history, our prosperity, and our future. The history of the Brooks Newell region is an interesting one. Our land went from a productive hunting ground to having John Palliser declare it as a desolate wasteland incapable of supporting human life. Fortunately for us, and much like my 3-year-old, some people don't listen. So let's look at how we got here.
Land is the foundation on which we build. Water brings life to everything around us. Energy powers the growth of our region. And the people who came before us worked hard to build our home. They valued our resources and created a better place for us to live. Now is our time. Our future starts today. This is the Brooks Newell region.
So that brings us to today and what lies in store for our future. As you saw, we feel that the building blocks of who we are can be achieved by our 4 cornerstones: land, water, energy, and people. Each cornerstone plays a unique role in our economic success and the viability of our region. Land is the foundation on which we build. Water brings life to everything around us. Energy powers the growth of our region, but the people are what sets us apart. We've had families that ranch the same land for over 120 years, and we have families who arrived yesterday seeking the safety and a better life from Ukraine. The entrepreneurial and pioneering spirit that started here, despite the warnings of John Palliser, still runs through our veins. We have strong ties to our traditions and an eye on innovation and growth. With the opportunities provided to us by our land, water, and energy, the future is bright, but it is the people who are our greatest resource, and they're who's going to continue driving us forward. With that said, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers this morning so we can hear their take on what the future holds for the Brooks-Newell region. How can we use our strengths to overcome the obstacles, and what new opportunities lay before us? Please welcome to the podium Mr. Arno DoerKsen, Reeve of the County of Newell.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year to all of you. And I'm going to just suggest we give Lisa and her crew a big round of applause for what we just saw there. And just for context, I think that was first played at the International Federation for Ag Journalists, which together with the EID and the City of Brooks and the County of Newell and our regional partners, we were platinum sponsors for that, and that's the production from this area. I'm really proud of that, and proud of the people who do such a good job for us every day to promote our region. So that's worth saying. I think that as the Reeve of the County of Newell, I represent County Council, and we have a number of County Councilors here today. Why don't you stand up wherever you are? Adina Scanderup, Amanda Philpott, Kelly Chrisman, Lynette Kopp. Oh, that has to, okay. Thanks, Mitch. So just a few, I have some information about the County of Newell, and if you're like me, you don't think much about what municipal government does unless your road is bad or your road is drifted in or you need a development permit. And that's how it should be, and it's how it was for me till I got involved with the county. But County of Newell is one of 96 rural municipalities across the province. In the County of Newell, 9 out of 10 of the top tax contributors to the county are in the energy production and distribution sector. That's significant for us, and that also provides a lot of the services and the ability to provide services that we have across this region, and we work together with partners on. What it really says is that we have a very high value infrastructure in the area of oil and gas and electricity infrastructure that's well developed. It has a high assessment, and it's contributing to our region. I also believe, and we believe, that it bodes well for the future of our district in terms of the infrastructure is in place. So this is the place to take advantage of whatever the energy production sector is going to be. We have an opportunity, and we need to exploit that where we can. Another interesting thing, there's more than 20,000 gas wells in the County of Newell. And the declining assessment on gas infrastructure particularly has an impact on the assessment growth that we're going to see, and we're going to need to see other assessment values take the place of that as it's potentially reduced. On the other hand, it's I think it's too early to say we're on a tailspin on that. I mean, if you read the Calgary Herald last week, the opinion column from Dennis McConaughey suggested that by the end of this decade, we're likely to see a 10% increase in the world demand for oil. That bodes well for our area as long as we don't get beat up too much, but we'll talk about that later. But a few other significant things about municipalities. They can't run budget deficits, but the MGA requires that municipalities to ensure that estimated revenue and transfers are sufficient to pay the estimated expenditures. And in a year when that isn't met, it needs to be accounted for in the next year. That's a significant thing. It also recognizes the value of reserve funds to make sure that we can keep our tax base balanced and be attractive as a place to invest. And I certainly think this area, the County of Newell, with all of its municipalities, are an excellent place to invest. Just another thing that you probably don't notice, and I wouldn't have, but the new County of Newell has a practice of saving the annual amortization amount and placing that in a restricted surplus that finances the replacement and rehabilitation of assets as they are added. So 100% of the amortization of vehicles, machinery, and equipment, and 50% of the infrastructure and facilities. So that's significant, because that puts us in a position of stability going forward, and I think that's important if you want to attract investment. You've probably noticed in the summertime crews out crack sealing county paved roads. There's a good reason for that, because it pays dividends. It might slow you down sometimes, but it extends the life of the pavement. That isn't done in all governments, and that's a strategy that happens, a policy that the County of Newell has had for some time, and I'm impressed with that. And I'm not talking about anything that I had much to do with. I'm taking my hat off to the representation we've had for many years in this area to serve us very well and legitimately to keep things stable and moving forward. We also like to recognize successes, and the county has been pleased to receive the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association for the 2023 county budget. Similar awards were recognized in 2022. I say that not, I can't take any credit for that and wouldn't want to, but I say that as an acknowledgement to the good people that we have working for us who are paying attention to the bottom line and ensuring that we have stability and sustainability going forward. The County of Newell invests heavily in quality of life amenities. Sorry, Sandra. This podium isn't built for that much. No. Yeah. The County of Newell invests heavily in the quality of life amenities throughout our entire region, and we do that together with many partners, ag societies, our neighbors in City of Brooks, the town of Bassano, the villages of Dutchess and Rosemary, and all of the hamlets, as well as the Eastern Irrigation District. There are a lot of projects that happen because we work together. And if and when that doesn't happen, there's usually a mess to clean up. So there's a good incentive to work together, and we've accomplished a lot. And the other thing I want to say is that our area has a strong reputation for a long period of having done that, and I'm proud of that. It's and I take my hat off to everyone who's been involved with that and made sure that that continues. A few projects that have happened or are ongoing from last year and going into the next year. We opened a new fire hall in Patricia and a renovated one in Rolling Hills, and the county provides a lot of the capital for fire services around our region, which have improved significantly over the last 20 or 30 years. We continue our advocacy for the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association, which is a significant opportunity, I think. Maybe its time has come. It's been a long project, but the opportunity to create energy from waste may be an opportunity whose time has come. We've collaborated with the town of Bassano, Newell Housing Foundation, and the John Brown Architecture Group, as well as the Brenda Strafford Foundation, to apply for a 14-unit small care home in Bassano. That's a significant project that is part of an ongoing project that will serve the area well. Phase 2 of the Rural Water Project is ongoing and will be completed in the coming years. That's also significant in terms of providing potable water to any resident who wants to participate in that. We continue to do a road study to identify paving priorities for the coming years. One of the other things that I think is significant is the Kinbrook, and is certainly a collaborative effort, is the Kinbrook Connection Pathway, which you could argue doesn't serve some of the county residents all that well, but it's a significant project that is good for the area, which will provide a paved pathway from Lake Newell right into the city of Brooks. And the county was able to, for lack of a better term, pull the trigger on that by adding some additional funding in addition to what the city of Brooks and the county already had in it. And the result of that is that the Lake Newell Resort community has also come to the table to extend that pathway out into their area. That's a significant thing that happens because we have the wherewithal to be able to make some things happen. One of the other thing that we're going to deal with in the coming year is the electoral boundary review, and we've taken some decisions on that. We're going to look at nine councillor divisions, and there will be opportunity in the coming year to discuss that publicly. So that's a matter that we will be discussing publicly, and then we'll get it behind us, which I think will be a good thing too. One of the county of Newell's goals is to attract investment into our region. And in that, in the interests of that, the county has implemented the non-residential municipal tax incentive bylaw, which puts a ceiling on the municipal tax rate for a 10-year period for major non-residential investments. And it also has a component of 50% municipal tax exemption for non-residential investments in the range of, say, $750,000. And we continue to do what we can to encourage economic development. One of the things that we see as our biggest opportunity, and it was referred to in the and highlighted in the video that was played, is water. It goes without saying, but we all know the desert this would be without water, and what a lifeblood that has been for the district. In considering what we talk about here today, I did a little bit of review of the history of the area, and I always like to go to a book that was written or mandated by, or initiated by the Eastern Irrigation District in 1985, called Tapping the Bow. If you think about the size of our region, we're about 1.5 million acres within the county of Newell. About 300,000 of that is irrigated. Some interesting facts about irrigation. Some of the most recent information we have is that an irrigated acre in southern Alberta generates about $3,900 to the provincial gross domestic product. That's a significant number. That's of interest to the county of Newell, and I expect to the province of Alberta, because that's what it is that generates activity and opportunity for us to grow. It isn't direct results to the county of Newell, but the tax base increasing. I mean, from irrigation, we don't collect much tax, but from value-added agriculture, it's significant. There is one value-added agriculture initiative that is in our top 5 or 10 contributors to the tax base, and that's the JBS project, which is really a highlight of entrepreneurial initiative that we continue to appreciate as agriculture producers, for sure. One of the things that is recorded in the history books is that probably 50 to 75 years ago, the Alberta government, when it looked at what was happening in the Eastern Irrigation District, said that we should probably max out at about 550,000 acres of irrigation. Today we're at about 310,000 acres. So we got a ways to go to live up to the dream and the vision of the people that started this. And I would remind us that that vision and that understanding came long before we have today's current opportunities for water efficiency. That should not be something that is out of reach for us. That's also not something that the county of Newell has much influence over, other than we are made up of some irrigation farmers. And so the future of where that goes is going to be in the hands of irrigation farmers, and we need leadership to remind ourselves of what the vision and the history of our area is and how we live up to that today. We've got it good. The Eastern Irrigation District is probably one of the best networks of irrigation infrastructure anywhere in the province. but it's pretty spread out. But what it does is I think gives us the opportunity to expand irrigation acres quite a bit more significantly than we maybe today have identified the vision for. But we need leadership on that, and certainly as a county we're interested in being a part of that. Can you imagine what would it look like if we expanded irrigation by, say, 25,000 acres a year for the next 5 or 10 years? For every 25,000 acres at the $3,900 contribution, we would have about $100 million contributing to the GDP. Think of the dynamic of that when we go to the province to say we need help and want help building projects like Snake Lake Reservoir or the Airmore Dam. Those are big visionary projects that need to get done. And I think in our region, we have the opportunity and the wherewithal to assist in that if we have the vision for it. What amazes me about our history is, probably a large number of the unirrigated acres yet, if you say there's 240,000 acres in that original vision that aren't irrigated, probably a large percentage of it is already ditched. They put ditches in way back in the years after 1914 with a horse and a Fresno. Think about the dynamic of that, given where the technology was at. They couldn't deliver water to a lot of it. Today, if we have the vision, we could make it happen. And what's, I think, really encouraging is that we have the opportunity as an area to do this strategically so that it's also good for the next generations of local farmers. That's an opportunity that we need to somehow get ourselves engaged in and activated on. That's extremely important in my opinion, and from the perspective of the county. How are we for time? Probably will run out, but I'm about done too, because I think the whole matter of water is probably where we see our easiest and biggest opportunity. Energy will be, as we've said, but water is our opportunity, and it's also one of our biggest threats if we don't take advantage of it, because it will go somewhere if we don't use it. And we need to take that seriously as irrigation farmers. I think that's where this is going to be. And I recognize that not everyone in here in this room is an irrigation farmer, but if you live in the city of Brooks, or any of our regional or area municipalities, you benefit from the spin-off effect of that GDP dynamic that we talked about. One of the other things that I think we need to address is that I think there's a range. We really need to find ways to maintain competitiveness. And as I briefly mentioned a few minutes ago, that's being attacked from higher levels of government, particularly in the East, and we can't take that for granted. There are a range of taxes and mandates being imposed and proposed on us by the federal government that will continue to push us offside with our competitors. Consider the whole impact of decarbonization or electric vehicle mandates that are coming at us fairly quickly, or the phasing out of fossil fuels. When we know that in China, there's probably a coal-fired generator being developed every week. Even in the US, they still are operating 210 coal-fired generators. That needs to register with us. We're an export nation, and we need to take seriously the whole matter of competitiveness. And I'm not going to talk about that too much longer, because I think we kind of know what I'm talking about. But what I do want to say is express appreciation to our Premier for standing up for Albertans. And that's a big deal. And we've got your back. We appreciate the fact that you've chosen to call this riding home, and we appreciate the fact that you're not weakening in the matter of standing up to Ottawa and to some of these initiatives that threaten our competitiveness. And we need to work together on that. We need to be logical, we need to be coherent, and we need to be dynamic in our stance on that, and challenging those who would buy into a false narrative. It seems to me that it's often been just kind of an activist agenda that is based on a false narrative and driven by the politics of fear. That needs to stop. We need to turn that around, and I think we have the opportunity to do that. And there are great opportunities from my perspective, from our perspective as the county within the Brooks-Newell region. And it's a privilege for us to work together with all of our municipal and community partners. That's how we get things done.
Thank you, Reeve DoerKsen, particularly for, without prodding, mentioning both land and water in your speech. I appreciate that. It tied in closely with my introduction. I now have the pleasure of introducing Mr. John Pretrie, Mayor of the City of Brooks, for an urban perspective.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Great to see a wonderful crowd out here today, too. And again, thanks to Lisa and Mitch for organizing this and putting this on here today. I want to introduce a couple of our city councilors here. I know Councilor Joel Goodenough. He's the deputy mayor. He's here somewhere, I believe. Where's he at? We have acting mayor Mohammed Idris. Yeah, there we are here. And we have Councilor John Nesbitt over there, too. A couple other people I want to introduce. My son Addison over at that table over there, and my wife, and my wife Kathy. One thing Kathy likes about being the mayor's wife is the unlimited budget she has for her wardrobe there too. Okay, Sandra, that's or the other media Smedley, that's only a joke. Yeah. And again, thanks for everybody attending. You guys paid $10 for this ticket here. Now, if you were to see the Premier in Calgary later this month, your ticket would be $500 or $600. So, thanks to Arno DoerKsen and myself, we were able to bring this value down considerably here too. And I want to reiterate what Reeve DoerKsen said to our Premier there. Thanks for sticking up for Alberta. That means so much, especially for the people in our region here and for all of Alberta too there too. I want to thank Arno DoerKsen too. We have a really good and strong relationship with the County of Newell. I go around the province there and there's a lot of bickering between municipalities and counties there. So we're really fortunate that we have a nice relationship with the County of Newell, and I appreciate that too. And by the way, thanks for the increase in ICF funding too, eh? I don't know if you knew about that. I just want to mention, normally our MP Martin Shields would be on the stage here, but he's away, and Martin has been a really good advocate for the oil and gas industry and for agriculture too. So I appreciate what MP Martin Shields has done. My talk today is going to be in three parts. I'm going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. And I'll start off with the past, and the past will only go back to 2023 here too. I think one of the big highlights we had last year was Alberta hosting the Alberta 55 games, plus 55 games. We had a chance and an opportunity to bring the province to our region. A lot of people don't realize that almost 80% of this province never comes to our corner of the province unless you're from Saskatchewan, like if you're going to Swift Current or Regina or Medicine Hat. So we were able to invite these people to our part of the province, and they were amazed at what we saw here. You know, there was a guy, and my wife was working on volunteering for bocce there, and the guy pointed out they were amazed at, you know, the greenery, the flower beds, the history of the murals, and, you know, just the greenery. I was volunteering for golf, and they were amazed at the green stuff there. And you have to realize, last summer, we had less than 3 inches of rain, but thanks to irrigation, and I know we have guys from the EID here too, that makes our area so beautiful, you know, to outsiders there too. That was number one on the list here from last year too. Number two, the Brooks Bandits won another Centennial Cup. They bring us a lot of positive news across Alberta and across Canada. And by the way, keep May 22nd in mind, because that's when we're having the parade for the 4th straight Centennial Cup Championship. Also in 2023, we elected the Premier of the province in our riding here too. Big highlight. 2023, we opened up the JBS Canada Park. JBS Foods contributed $475,000 to that project here. And I'm just going to segue into the corporate sponsorship in this community here. And I'm going to go back to 2004, and I know he's in the audience here too. We were struggling to get our pool built, and Garnet Altwasser was leading up Lakeside Packers at the time. He donated $1 million for our swimming pool, which is still one of the best in Southeast Alberta. And occasionally I see Brent at the pool there too. I just want to add something on the corporate sponsorship. We have a lot of nice facilities in our area here, and it's because we've had a lot of corporate donations, so I really appreciate that, and also donations from our service clubs in the area here too. Other big things here, I'll go through them quickly here. In the city of Brooks, we started a dog park. We changed our taxi bylaw to allow for ride-sharing service. We brought in a bylaw to allow chickens in your backyard. We have a new QP agreement with our employees. We completed the Trails Master Plan. We, along with the County of Newell and the EID, invited in international journalists to talk about water and agriculture. That was important, and Reeve DoerKsen had mentioned that there too. We opened up several homes for Habitat for Humanity. We lost the Oasis Theatre. That's sad. Whatever. We struggled with the effects of the graffiti guy. If you're in Brooks here, you know what I'm talking about on that, but we did catch him here too. We developed a closer relationship with the RCMP. One issue we had with the RCMP is they weren't communicating out to the public, and when you don't communicate out to the public there, the social media controls the narrative. And they have come to the forefront and are giving us a lot more information than what they ever did before. And another delicate situation that happened in Alberta and across Canada over the summer was the problem with the Eritrean community. We have a large Eritrean community in Brooks here, but thanks to the RCMP, they were able to sit down with that community here, and we had no problems here. Thank goodness on that. Those are some of the things though, you know, like in the past. I'm going to talk about now, or the present, or what's going to happen in 2024 here. No doubt, housing is a major issue, but I often say it doesn't matter where you are in this country, whether you're in Toronto, Halifax, Kapuskasing, or Brooks, housing is a big issue there. We brought in some incentive plans to try to attract developers, and we're getting some input on that, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a while here. The Willings of Brooks project, I don't know if you know about this one. They got the infrastructure in place. It's for 160 units. They haven't started building, and we hope they build or start building this year there. And 160 units for our community here is a big project, probably one of the biggest ones we've had in the last 25 years. We know we have an issue with transportation, so we're going to do a pilot project on that. We have plans for a new skateboard park and pump track. We're going to the public for input on that this month here too. It will be by the existing skateboard park by the Duke of Sutherland Park. And the old rodeo grounds is on our agenda too. We have put $3 million aside for a football field, soccer fields, and so you know we're came in a lot higher than that at about $5 or $6 million, so we're looking for funding on that, and we're going to make some decisions on that probably after the spring budget sometime on what's going to happen with that there too. But I believe it's a viable project for the community here too. There are plans for an outdoor amphitheater. I'm excited about that. And something here in the city of Brooks here is the Pace Solar Farm. Now, and I want to clarify something there too, because sometimes social media gets things misconstrued. The city is not building this solar farm. It's not on city-owned land, but it is within the boundaries of the city of Brooks, so that means we do have a say in what happens, and we talk to Pace. They've been very good. We worry about the aesthetics. They've come up with a nice plan for that, and you know, with trees around the facility and a walking path there too. So, you know, and we'll kind of wait until the moratorium is off on that to see what happens on that. And I'd be a little remiss too if I didn't mention the tax dollars, property tax dollars that we would get from that. I think it might work out to about $330,000 a year there, which benefits everybody in the city of Brooks. Always on our mind, healthcare. Through joint services, we always monitor how many local doctors we have. We do have a shortage of nurses, but that's a problem right across the province there. We have a shortage of veterinarians, and I know the provincial government is working on that one there too. Some of the smaller ones that, well, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, is the litter and weeds around the community there. It's a city problem, but we can work with Communities in Bloom, Eagle Brooks, and the bylaw officers there too. I had a solution of going around with Roundup there, but they won't let me do that. The odor of Brooks has always been a problem. We're often, whenever we go somewhere, people know us for two reasons. One is our Brooks Bandit. Second, oh, it smells. But you know, we were talking with the Premier there, and she brought up the biodigester by High River there that feeds for the feedlots for the Cargill plant there. They're working on that over there, and there's a possibility that maybe we can bring that over here to reduce the smell of that. And I know JBS is also looking at that there too. And Reeve DoerKsen also mentioned this about the Sewa project, the Southeast Waste to Energy project there. I know a lot of guys are involved in this one there. I would love to see this come to fruition. We put a lot of work and a lot of money into that over the last 13 years. Now to the future. Back to the future. It's not back to the future. Prior to one of our council sessions in the spring, we sat down with our council there, and we were looking at our tax increase and what it could possibly be. And I basically said, unless we find a way to grow residentially, commercially, or industrial, it's going to be the same people paying for our roads and our infrastructure and our sports facilities. These costs are not going to go down. We have to find a way in order to increase our residential, commercial, and industrial development in the community there. I know the county has come up with their incentive plan. In the city of Brooks, our incentive plan, if you build a new home or apartment building or condo, you won't have to pay any municipal property taxes for the first year. You get 75% off the second year, 50% the third year, 25% the fourth year. Now, if you're building a home, that could reduce your mortgage quite a bit there too. Or if you're going to be building an apartment or a condo building, that would certainly reduce that too. We've also discounted city-owned land to attract investors. I was listening to a program out of Calgary there, and they were talking about urban sprawl. And I got thinking, like in our community here, because we think, okay, we're going to expand to the southeast, and we've got a lot of opportunities to expand to the southeast, going towards the college there, because we have the infrastructure in place here. But why can't we, in our community here, grow up instead of out? We have a lot of vacant properties. If you look on 2nd Street, there's a lot of vacant properties. Between the Heritage here and the Indian Pan Flame, there's a vacant property. Behind us, there's a vacant property. On Castle, well, even between Martin Chrysler and Dairy Queen, vacant property. Castles Road, there's vacant property. We have to find a way to find, and these properties have been vacant for 25 to 30 years. There's an opportunity, whoever owns this land, to build and make money on that, and we have to talk with them and move up. I talked with Public Works about that, and Public Works said, no, we got the infrastructure in place, and it won't be a problem with increased water or sewer, and that's a major problem. When you build an apartment, you're basically building a mini lift station because the water has to flow down anyway, so there's opportunity there. The bottom line here, though, if we don't improve housing, it's tough to grow. How do we bring industries here if we don't have places for them to live? And I know even in the education system there too, with teachers and young professionals, we need places for them to live. A word that is often used is affordable housing. I don't like that because that's based on income. We need attainable housing. Housing where, 2 young professionals, can live, and we have to work on that. I was showing a developer around, and he talked about, do you have enough water here? And I never really paid much attention to that before when I was talking to developers, because it's something we just take for granted. But many communities have issues with water license, and our Premier certainly knows, from the High River Okotoks area, how they fight for water license here. I checked. We have water license here for 50,000 people. To increase our population now, if I talk about the Brooks Newell region, we've got 25,000 people. We could double it. And I'll talk about that. I'm gonna, when I say about increasing our population to 25,000, Medicine Hat Mayor Lindsay Clark talks about increasing her population to 100,000. I know I get mocked on that there too, but I think we have to start somewhere because I see a lot of potential in Southeast Alberta. And when we talk about the water treatment plant, I was talking to an official from the Newell Regional Water Services the other day there. I says, the existing plant, like how many people could you serve? And he says, right now, we could serve 38,000 people without making any changes. He says with the small adjustments, we could make it up to 50,000 people. So that's a story that everyone, there's a lot of politicians here. When you're talking to other developers or other people, we have the water for not only residential use, but maybe for industrial or commercial use too. And that's a story our premier sort of has to take around the province because we have a lot of potential here for Southeast Alberta. And we talk about economic development. I look at Highway 3 and the agri-food businesses along their lane there. We're always envious of that, and I know Reeve DoerKsen talked about that. I don't know why there's not, there's a potential of increasing the agri-food business in this area here. A couple years ago on council, we had looked, there was a plant protein company looking at coming here, and we were willing to put money aside because they needed a bigger water pipe there. But we lost out on that plant protein facility here to Moose Jaw, and the reason is because they had a better tax incentive plan there. Our premier has told me they fixed that there, so that shouldn't happen again. Another one of our assets, when we look about assets in the area here, is our immigrants. 35% of our population are new Canadians. We almost have 50% visible minority. We've done a tremendous job, in including our immigrants, in our community here too. Another one too, I talk about BrooksNet. Our city council invested heavily in BrooksNet, high-speed internet. And I know Calgary is talking about becoming a high-tech hub. I just want some morsels out of that coming this way here. We have the potential because of our high-speed internet there too. I'm just going to tell a little story. My son is working on a documentary there, and he had to email some video, I think it was to Montreal. He said normally in the past the amount of video would take probably most of the day in order to send. What did it take? About 7-8 minutes with the high-speed internet we have at home now. Just amazing, yeah. Other economic opportunities, and I know the county's really pushing for this, is the Crop Diversification Center. I think we have a lot of potential, for that to come back to the way it was before. The Brooks campus, Medicine Hat College. I mean, there's a lot of people here that have been around for a long time. How do we make this more of a destination college? Whether we become a satellite of Olds campus, for agriculture, and I know at Joint Services we talked about it maybe being a pre-med college where if you're going in for whether it be a dentist, chiropractor, doctor, you can learn your first 2 years here before you have to move on. And we have to talk about tourism. There's millions of people that go to Jasper and Banff every year. How do we swing them to this end of the province here? Tourism is so much money for a municipality there too. The problem we have is the lack of campgrounds. We're going to have to find a way to increase our capacity at that level there too. Some other projects, and when we talk about the future, the new junior high school, we're excited about that. That's going to be great there too. We do need a new police station down the road, as the existing one is getting a little crowded and old down there too. I'm going to finish it off here with my top 10 list here. I was a big fan of David Letterman. He created the top 10 list there, and I had a chance to see David Letterman in person in New York there through all the lifetime, because I grew up as a younger person watching David Letterman over time there. So this is my top 10 list on why the Brooks Newell region is the best place to live. Number 10 on the list, the diversity of the community. Number 9, Our Brooks Bandits. They're perennial winners, and they brought us a lot of strong community spirit. Number 8, and a lot of people don't think about this one, we're only 2 hours away from an international airport. People on parts of Toronto have to travel further than that through a lot of traffic to get to an international airport. All of us like to take holidays. It's nothing to get to Calgary to that airport. The cost of living here. It's cheaper to be here. People in Calgary and Vancouver can sell, they have a lot of equity in their homes. They can sell their homes, buy one at a reasonable price here and have money saved here. When I say it's cheaper to live here, it's only $10 to get a ticket to see the Premier here. Later on in the month, you'd have to pay $500 or $600. I talk about, the aesthetics of the community there. You know, Communities in Bloom has done a tremendous job. After all, you know, we built this city in a desert here. You know, our flower beds, our hanging baskets, our trees, our vegetation, the murals. People, when they come here, they're just amazed at, what we have here in the summertime. Our outdoor tourist attractions and recreational facilities. We have Lake Newell, Crawling Valley, the Rolling Hills Reservoir, Emerson Bridge Campground, Tilly Brook Campground, Dinosaur Park, and soon to be the paved pathway, from Brooks to Lake Newell there too. Our other recreational facilities, the CRA. I've been to a lot of major events across Canada with the Centennial Cup here, and this facility we have in Brooks is still one of the nicest small town facilities we have in all of Canada there. Everybody should be very proud of this facility we have here too. Just about recreational facilities, we've got, the EID Aquatic Center, as I mentioned, the pool, just a great facility there. We have the quad ball diamonds, Silver Sage, the Silver Sage. I was showing these guys from eRadioGlobal Radio, they're from Colombia there, about the Silver Sage, whatever, and they were just amazed at that there too. And a lot of people don't realize that we have 7 hockey rinks within basically almost a 25 or 30 kilometer radius of Brooks there. You know, we have Rolling Hills, Tilly, Dutchess, Rosemary, Bazzano, and then the 2 in Brooks here too. We have a lot of hockey rinks here in this community here too. So that was number 3 on the list here. Number 2 on the list on why the Brooks Newell region is the best place to live is our education system here. With Grasslands, Christ the Redeemer, and our French school system, they have the best administrators in all of Alberta, if not Canada. And I just want to give a shout out to the teachers who had to deal with COVID. Yeah, you can applaud. Yeah, we do. Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to the teachers and administration for the challenges they had with COVID over those 2 years. It was not easy on the students or the teachers there too. And I know what they do with the ESL programs in this community here too. They do a tremendous job. So number 3 on the list are education. Or that was number 2, yeah. Number 1. And it ties back to what Lisa and Mitch had put together earlier. The number 1 reason on why the Brooks Newell region is the best place to live is the people and their energy. And that goes back to the government's plans, and Arno had talked about, the history of this back to 1910, about the foresight of building an irrigation district in the area here too. And I look at people that have led the way, from Carl Anderson and the EID, and Garnet Altwasser, who had the foresight to expand Lakeside Packers at the time, and how it's changed the complexity of this community here. And I know, I just want to mention too, and he was nominated by the county, he's in the Agriculture Hall of Fame. He was inducted this past fall there, so congratulations. How about a hand for Arno there too? I also want to talk, I'm just going to finish up here, but I also want to talk about the county councillors who had the foresight to bring in regional water. And I think there's a few in the audience there, Anne-Marie Phillipson, and I saw Brian DeJong later. And I know when they first talked about this, they were getting a lot of pushback there. But what a major asset it is to our region for farmers to have potable water. We spent a lot of Christmases out at the farm there, and my father-in-law had to make sure that the water was stocked up, because of everybody coming home at Christmas time there. That doesn't happen anymore. They have fresh water all the time. So what a major asset. It just increases the value of everybody, in the Brooks Newell region there too. I have to talk about the oil and gas industry. This community was built on oil and gas. It's meant a lot to us too. And I just want to finish off with the people themselves and the energy of the people and the volunteering. You know, when the Plus 55 Alberta Summer Games came up here, the volunteers just came out in droves. And that's been symbolic over the time period. I go back to the 1989 Alberta Summer Games. We hosted the Cactus Pheasant Classic and the number of volunteers. And I talk about the NJAC. I know, well, there was a lot of people involved in the NJAC, which was the National Junior A Hockey Championship when we hosted it back in 2019. What an event for this community. The volunteers it took, people still talk about that. I've been to other events. Nothing compares to what we did here in Brooks on that, too. We have great energy because of great people. It's a story we can all easily sell. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Well, I understand you all paid $10, so I hope I give you your money's worth. I think we already had our money's worth this morning. Two very hard acts to follow with Brooks. First of all, the Brooks Newell region. Thank you for organizing today's breakfast and bringing together such dynamic leaders, and for that incredible video. I saw something that was incredible as well at one of the other breakfasts I went with, Cypress County, and I'm glad to see that Travel Alberta is represented here, because I think every single one of our communities should be able to celebrate the amazing things that are going on in them. It was a beautiful initiative, so thank you for that. Thank you as well to Noel Reeve, Arno DoerKsen, who has been a great friend and advisor to me over these last several months that I have been the representative for the area, as well as Brooks Mayor John Pretrie. I feel like we see each other an awful lot. There's always so much to celebrate in our communities together. I also know that there are many representatives here from Dutchess and Rosemary, Bassano, the EID, Medicine Hat Chamber, as well as Medicine Hat College, the school boards, and I should give a special thank you to Garnet Altwasser, who without him I wouldn't be here today, because when he bought me at the Brooks Rotary fundraiser a couple of years ago, I met him at the Montana's, he and Brent, and I was choking on a piece of meat, and he just whipped into action and managed to get it dislodged, so thank you for saving my life, Garnet. And that's a guy you want to have dinner with. But thank you all so much for being here today, and for your relentless commitment to the success of our region. I have to say that hearing the presentations this morning, it just underscores the foundational philosophy of our government, which is everything is best that is local. And I look at our role as a provincial government of leveraging the dollars that we have to partner with local agencies and local municipalities to just get the job done. And so I hope that with my comments you can see it from that perspective. I'll probably just bring it up one level, but do know that I think the incredible work that is being done in the community is just a testament to such great leadership. So thank you for all of you for doing that. Now, as you know, 2023 presented many challenges for Albertans and Canadians. Just to name a few, we experienced an unprecedented wildfire season that began essentially when the campaign got underway. So we were doing dual work of running a campaign as well as having emergency management meetings in the morning all through the entire month of May. And then, of course, an inflation crisis borne out by bad economic policies in Ottawa that we've been warned about for a couple of years. You cannot just keep on printing money and putting it into the economy and not expecting that it's going to have a major impact on prices, and we are realizing that today. And then, of course, unprecedented hostility from Ottawa towards the constitutional and jurisdictional rights of the provinces. I'll have more to say about that in a minute, but despite the challenges, Alberta was tremendously successful in 2023 and currently is riding a strong wave of economic momentum in 2024. I remember a couple of years ago, the CBC decided to take a slam on our province because we had a series of negative out-migration over 13 quarters, and so they were saying nobody wants to live in Alberta, but my goodness, have things turned around. We are now attracting more people into our province than we have at any other point in our history. People want to be here because of what's being created, because of the opportunity for jobs, for the economy, but the fact that you can live, as the mayor said, within 2 hours of an international airport in so many of the beautiful small and mid-sized communities that we have in our province. We have an affordability proposal that is better than any other province. And so I think that that's why we're going to continue to see that grow, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to continue to see it grow in this region as well. We have a balanced budget, and we have a projected surplus this year of $5.5 billion, which is an increase of $3.2 billion from budget 2023. I should mention, I made a little note here about how we might be able to assist in having more people flow this way. I've been wanting to talk with Minister of Municipal Affairs, Rick McIver, about how we could have a matching incentive program to deal with some of the issues of affordability that come along with trying to get more people into a community. So I already sent him a note, Mayor Pretrie, about your proposal for reducing property taxes, and we need to match this. So we'll see if we can get a pilot program matching, but that's an incredible initiative for you to be able to do, because we do know that as we're developing this incredible opportunity here, that there are costs associated with it as well. So the benefit, though, is that we do have a budget surplus, which allowed us to pay off $13.4 billion worth of debt. We put $3 billion back into the Heritage Savings Trust Fund for future generations. And I have to tell you the framework that we're taking as a government, because one of the things that I've observed over time is that when the boom times happen, we end up increasing spending in an unsustainable way, and then when the inevitable decline happens, we're left with massive deficits. So what we're doing is restraining year-over-year spending growth so that we can have surpluses, so we can pay down the debt. 50% of all of our surpluses have to go to debt repayment, so we can get a line of sight to being debt-free once again, as we were back in the Klein days. But in addition, if you can imagine, if we had just kept the investment income of our Heritage Savings Trust Fund from the time of those early deposits of Peter Lougheed, it would be worth over $150 billion right now. We would be able to wean ourselves off our reliance on resource revenue. So the best time to have started that was 30 years ago. The second best time is now. That's what we've started. We're keeping all of the investment income in our fund. We've already grown it by $3 billion. If we keep this up within 10 years, that fund will be worth $50 billion. And then with the doubling power of money, it could be worth $100 billion 10 years later, and then $200 billion after that. That is the kind of thing that we need to be able to offer as a proposition to our future generations, so that they know that we're going to be investing wisely for them. So we have today's current needs that we have to deal with as well, but we have to deal with legacy debt problems and also be thinking about our future. And because we put this process in place, this framework in place, our credit rating has improved. We just saw another credit upgrade. Multiple international credit rating agencies have increased, and what that increased our rating. What that means is when we do go to the market to have to refloat our bonds, which we will have to do with $26 billion over the next 3 years, we'll at least be able to do it at a lower rate than we otherwise would, which saves us money. Rather than spending it on finance charges, then we're able to use it for operational spending, so we can pay for tax cuts, so we can hire more nurses, more doctors, more teachers, and build more roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, and so forth. We continue to have the highest economic growth and lowest taxes in the country. And people are clearly taking notice, because as I mentioned, we've welcomed a record number of new residents to the province, people who are in search of economic freedom, of affordability, and of opportunity. And we also saw investment continue to pour into every corner of our province as we witnessed ongoing diversification of the economy in new industries like film and television, setting new records for investment. And in many ways, the Brooks Newell region is a strong example of what's happening in Alberta. We've got a diverse economic landscape that includes everything from agriculture to energy to manufacturing to renewables to film and television to tourism. Let me add helium on there, because we did a ribbon cutting on a helium well, and there's going to be more of that. The waste to energy project, it started off over 10 years ago. I think the time has now come. I can't wait to see that started. And I'm sure, Mayor Pretrie, you're just going to get a little morsel of all that venture capital money that is flowing into the province as well. I think it's $700 million for the last 2 years. So there's a huge amount of opportunity for growth and diversification. And we have a young, dynamic, and diverse workforce. We have passionate local leaders who are committed to growing our local economies. We have incredible school boards. I have to tell you, I brag about our school boards all over the rest of the province. In particular, a couple of the demonstration projects that I've seen at the Prairie Rose with the urban school and the agriculture demonstration project there, as well as the aviation school. These are the kind of things that are connecting young people to exciting careers in the trades and skilled professions early. And as I heard the mayor talking about what the opportunity for the college would be, I would just maybe ask you to consider this, that perhaps there's an opportunity for a closer collaboration with our high schools and the college, so that we can grant early admission to kids after they finish grade 10 to finish their high school at a college and get into a program of choice right away, so that when they graduate at age 18, they can go directly into the workforce as opposed to waiting 10 years to find the program of choice to get into. Right now, we still have an average age of entering the trades of 27, and I think we can do so much better than that. And the other benefit, too, is that you keep those kids educated in the community, they stay in the community, and that's part of the way that we're going to continue to build communities. So I want you to know that our government is listening and acting on the priorities of families and businesses in the region and across the province. We don't always fight with the federal government. They give us lots of reasons to fight with them, but we did sign a $24 billion healthcare funding deal with the federal government, and that ensures that no Albertan will ever have to pay out of pocket to see a family doctor. In fact, we just announced a bilateral agreement on the issue of primary care funding, which we're flowing directly through to our primary care practitioners. Our goal is to see, by the next election, every single Albertan have access to a family care practitioner, whether that's a doctor or a nurse practitioner or one of the primary care networks. We're making long-needed reforms to reduce emergency wait times, restore local decision-making, and fix the healthcare system for patients and their families once and for all. I should just maybe scope out the nature of the problem that we're facing in healthcare, because it was one that we identified a year ago. The core nature of the problem is that we've got all doors leading to the emergency room. And it's because we put Alberta Health Services, which is our principal acute care provider, in charge of everything. And so if you don't have a family doctor, you go to an emergency room. If you're needing a placement in continuing care and you don't have a place to go, you're in an acute care bed in a hospital. If you have a mental health problem, emergency room. Addiction problem, emergency room. Homeless problem, emergency room. This is the reason why our emergency rooms are overcrowded. So what we're doing with our restructuring is creating different doors for people to go through. If everyone has a family practitioner, that would be their first line of entry. If they need to get a prescription filled, or if they have a sick loved one, a child with fever, rather than go to the hospital. We are also creating recovery communities for mental health and addiction so that people can get stabilized in their condition, build a recovery community, and get back out into the workforce. We're also working on clearing the number of people who are in acute care beds and putting them into a more appropriate facility. I don't know about you, but I think if I was needing long-term care, I certainly wouldn't want to be languishing in a hospital room. I'd want to be in something that is more a home-like setting. So when you think about the problem that we have right now in healthcare, we have it quantified. We have 488 people who are awaiting placement in long-term care. And I know from talking to our continuing care homes, they have somewhere between 25 and 35% vacancy. So if we can get those folks in an appropriate facility, that clears out the bottleneck that we have in acute care, which means that we can efficiently get people entered into hospital when they go into the emergency room, which means it won't back into the hallway, which means it won't back into the back of ambulances, which means we won't have a lineup of 20 ambulances at Calgary and Edmonton pulling them out of regions like Brooks and elsewhere. So those are the reasons we had to make these changes. And I have to say that one of the approaches that I took, I love to give people a chance. So I gave the management a chance over the last year to show me what they were able to do, and they just weren't up to the job. So we let go 6 of the senior executives, and we are prepared to let go many, many, many more managers if they do not give the level of service that we expect as Albertans who are receiving care in the system, or that our frontline service providers deserve in having the kind of environment to work in. So do know there's a lot more coming there. I think we've identified the problems, and now we're just working our way through the solutions. But in response, let me go back to the economy for a bit. In response to the extreme drought, we also partnered with the federal government to announce the Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership and provide millions in federal provincial agri-recovery funding to help livestock producers. I wish I could do something about the rain. I think they were in for another pretty dry season, so we're all watching that with some concern. I have heard, maybe the eastern irrigation districts could tell me otherwise, I have heard that we're looking pretty good on our reservoirs for most of the districts, except for perhaps Oldman and St. Mary's. If that's changed, I certainly would love to know before I leave today. But through these kinds of programs, eligible livestock producers can apply for financial support to cover any losses they incurred as a result of the dry conditions. We're also continuing to diversify the economy by doing things like creating the agri-processing investment tax credit. We heard that Saskatchewan was eating our lunch on that, so we decided to match them on a program. And it's facilitated a boom in agri-food processing investment right here in southern Alberta. You probably saw that McCain's announced $700 million upgrade on building of a French fry factory, which is going to be the largest investment that they've made since the 1950s. And we're going to do more of this. The Crop Diversification Center County of Newell, Reeve, Arno DoerKsen has been a real driver behind that project to get it operating the way it used to in the past. I believe there's over 50 different varieties of irrigated crops that were cultivated in that center. And when you look at the success that we've had in irrigation, now we have more acres under cultivation for potatoes than anywhere else in the country. It used to be, I think PEI used to be ahead of us, Manitoba used to be ahead of us, and now potatoes, and I can tell you, or now I know we're ahead on potatoes, and I can tell you that Grant Hunter wants to see the same thing happen with sugar beets that he saw with potatoes. And why not set a target of doubling the number of irrigated acres that we have in southern Alberta? If that was the original vision, we certainly should be able to achieve that. So we've already undertaken a review of the feasibility of the Armour Dam, and so I hope that we'll be able to have an announcement on what we might be able to do there very soon. I should also mention, because the mayor talked about the smell of money that we sometimes have in Brooks, because I am aware of that smell of money that we have in High River as well. And the biodigester was it was a little controversial in the High River area, only because I think that the public consultation didn't get done early enough. Biodigesters are really standard in Germany, for instance. You wouldn't build a major livestock operation without a biodigester. The point of it is to reduce odor, and I think that there was a misconception that it was going to increase odor. So I'll be able to report back to you how that's going. I'd be happy to work with JBS if they decide they want to go down that pathway as well, because I think it will just lead to higher quality of life, as everybody knows, that we value our agriculture community. I think we have to find better ways to make sure we can coexist together. I should also mention as well, because we had the inflation crisis over the last year and a half. It's abated a little bit with the oil and gas prices coming down, but we passed a multi-billion-dollar relief package, which included affordability payments, electricity rebates, natural gas rebates, electricity price protection, and we introduced a floating provincial fuel tax. And what that means is that when oil prices are above $90, we're going to be taking the fuel tax off altogether. That's 13 cents. When it's below $80, it comes back on. And so we had a longer period of reprieve that ended in December of 2023, but that put $2 billion back in the hands of Albertans over that 18-month period. And if you drove a Toyota Corolla, that would have saved you about $280. I think this crowd probably more likely drove the F-150s, so your savings was more like $560 over that period. And I know nobody likes to pay taxes, I get that. But I can tell you that we still have the second lowest fuel prices in the entire country. We want to continue to be at the low end, but we need those dollars in order to ensure that we can continue to invest in the roads infrastructure that we're going to need as we continue to grow. We signed a memorandum of understanding with Saskatchewan and Manitoba to foster the development of new economic corridors across our 3 provinces. I've already talked to the new Premier of Manitoba, saying that it would be delightful if we could continue down that pathway. I can also mention that our northern partner and friend, Ranj Pillay, who is the Premier of Yukon, wants to partner with us on building a new economic route that will go up and over to Skagway so that we have other export capacity. And I've just recently discovered the incredible opportunity that we have with Port of Prince Rupert. In my recollection from years ago, Port of Prince Rupert was the port that was going to be something one day. Well, I can tell you what's happened since 2015. Dubai Ports came in, and they are operating terminals there. We've seen an increase in the amount of capacity being exported out of that terminal from about 800,000 containers a year to 7.5 million. So that gives you an idea of the growth that they've seen. We're now exporting 30 million tons of product out of that port every single year. They want to grow it to 40 million tons by 2030. They think they have the capacity to grow it even further to 100 million tons out into the future. And I've talked to CN with all the sidings they've put in, they think they have the capacity to do it. So it's a matter of us finding the markets and being able to leverage that infrastructure. One of the things that is so interesting about Dubai Port, some of you may know that I went to COP28, and I'll talk about some of the reasons why in a minute. But when I visited Dubai Ports, this is a company that is so valued. The Quebec Pension Fund has taken up 22% ownership stake in it. That should tell you something. But one of the things that they do so well is if we were to try to transport something to China, we would put something in a container ship, send it to China, it would come back empty. Because Dubai has become essentially a center of economic trade in the entire region, they very rarely deadhead any of their container ships. They say maybe 10% of the time they have to send it back empty, because you can send something to Dubai and then they can drop it off at the ports all in the Middle East, all through Africa and on to India, and then in return. They've been able to take the cost of shipping down from $15,000 per container to $2,300 per container. So if you don't think that's an opportunity for all the incredible product that we're producing here, I must tell you, like, we really need, I think, to get a trade mission going to Port of Prince Rupert so we can think about all of the amazing things that we can do, because most of the product coming out of that port are coming right from Alberta and from Saskatchewan. So I think that there's an immense opportunity for our energy producers as well as our agri-food producers to be able to take advantage of that asset. We also, just taking it closer to home, we also opened a new $4.6 million courthouse in Brooks, which will help to improve access to justice to residents and tackle the scourge of rural crime. And last but certainly not least, we stood up for Albertans when Ottawa tried to intrude on our provincial rights and responsibilities. It seems like every day we are faced with a new, bizarre, expensive, unrealistic, and unconstitutional idea from Ottawa, whether it's their 2035 net zero plans, which just aren't just unconstitutional, but they are impossible to achieve within an 11-year time frame. Our time frame is to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, and I believe we can do that with the innovation around carbon capture, utilization, and storage. We talked about the opportunity for helium. It's an opportunity for hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, and various other types of export products. But whether it's their Bill C-69, the Impact Assessment Act, which was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Canada, or whether it's their single-use plastics ban, they declared plastics toxic. Just take a look around at all the plastics that is around you. They've declared it toxic, which is why they presumed to use the criminal law power to legislate it. And the court said, you can't do that. It's been rejected by the federal court as an unconstitutional intrusion into our provincial jurisdiction, whether it's their unilaterally established methane emissions rules, which are not only unconstitutional, but completely ignore the successful approach we've already taken at the province, which has reduced methane emissions from oil and gas sector by 45%. They're not done there. They're coming after cow burps next. You know that, right? I mean, they're first going to offer an incentive program to quantify the amount of methane emissions from cattle. But I can tell you, you are already seeing the extreme environmentalists talk about how agriculture is 80% reliant on fossil fuels for production. So they are coming after the agriculture industry next. So do know that we're watching this, we're aware of it, we're going to make sure that we're putting up barriers, because they had already announced a year and a half ago that they were intending to have a fertilizer emissions cap, reducing the emissions from fertilizer 30% by 2030. The industry successfully fought that off. But if I know anything about the guy we're tangling with in Ottawa, Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault, it's just on the back burner, waiting to bring to the front burner whenever he feels like he can get away with it. And also their new plan to ban all new gas vehicle sales by 2035. It's not only unconstitutional, but it is completely bananas. Like, let me talk to you about what it is that they're proposing, because you think, oh, 2035, that's a long way away. We will start feeling the effect immediately, because they want to have a law in place which will not allow auto manufacturers to sell any less than 20% of their vehicle stock as electric vehicles. So when I've talked to the manufacturers, I said, how are you going to implement this? And they'll say, well, what will happen is that we will have to shrink the number of gas-powered vehicles we sell in order to meet that 80% target. So if Albertans only buy 2,000 electric vehicles, that means that they'll only be able to sell us 8,000 gas-powered vehicles. We normally buy 200,000 vehicles a year. So don't be surprised in 2026 when you walk into the dealership and ask for your Ford F-150. By January 15, they're going to say, sorry, they're all sold. Come back next year. We'll put you on the list. That's the kind of environment that they're creating. And this is the reason why we've taken such a strong stance against it, is because they make these pronouncements and they will have an immediate effect. It sounds like it's a far way away, but it's not. It's also time, in my view, for the federal government to stop imposing its expensive ideological agenda on Albertans and Canadians, and start listening to families and businesses who are hurting right now through no fault of their own. I saw the mention earlier from Arno that the realistic projections, if you want to end global energy poverty and you want to provide global food security, we're very likely going to see an increase in the need for oil and gas and other reliable sources of energy. And we are in the best position to be able to provide that. And so we have to make sure that we're getting our product to market. So what does that mean for this area? If we've got 20,000 wells in this area, one of the big impacts I'm waiting to see is what happens when Coastal GasLink is open and LNG export starts happening off the West Coast. Because what has happened is that we're selling BC's gas. 5 BCF a day is coming through Alberta, our pipeline system, to go into the United States. So when those molecules are now going to the West Coast, that means that we're going to have to fill the pipelines with existing gas from within Alberta. I think that's going to rejuvenate all of those fields that have been sitting waiting for the economics to make sense for them to be rejuvenated. So we're starting a process getting the Alberta Energy Regulator back to its original purpose. The original purpose of the Alberta Energy Regulator was to make sure that we maximize the value of our resources. Their conservation agenda began because we had some early mistakes where we blew off the gas and then we ended up stranding a bunch of oil underneath the surface. So if we took the approach that we want to maximize the value of our product for future generations, and we also then created an environment where we're rejuvenating some of those old fields, I think that this region is going to be the principal beneficiary of that. So the Coastal GasLink, the LNG Canada opens up, I believe, in 2025. And so just be prepared. That may be one other way in which we're able to see a surge here. And as we prepare to embark on the new year, we are ready to work with the federal government on ideas that benefit everyday families and businesses in the region and in this province. I mentioned before, we can work with the federal government. They were very helpful in helping to partner in getting the Dow Petrochemical a net zero plant to the finish line. We are now the first in the world to have net zero plastics. We are going to have a net zero cement factory announced next year with Heidelberg. We will be the first in the world to do that. I'm trying to attract Bosco from South Korea to do a net zero steel factory here. We have net zero hydrogen coming on stream with Air Products. We have de Havilland, which is going to be building water bombers. These are the kind of things that we've been able to work constructively with the federal government on. So there's lots of opportunity for us to work in partnership if we have somebody who's prepared to engage in cooperative federalism, the way our country is intended to work. But when it comes to ideas that actively hurt families and businesses and make your lives harder and more expensive, we will be there every step of the way to protect our people and to protect our province from harm. Alberta is booming, but it will take us all working together to keep our province strong and prosperous and free. And I look forward to working with all of you in 2024 and beyond. Thanks once again for having me on.
All right. I'll be the shortest speaker here. I don't want to rush in for the door yet. There was Mayor Pretrie, but I'm the quickest speaker here today anyway. So good morning. My name is Mitchell Iwas. I'm the Economic Development Officer, not the former Economic Development Officer, after what I just said about the mayor, hopefully, for the Brooks Newell region. First, I'd like to thank all our speakers here this morning. It's been so beneficial to get them together in one room and hear firsthand about the challenges they face in leading our municipalities and our province. But more importantly, the opportunities that they see for us as a region as we enter this new year. There was a lot of talk about opportunities and the opportunities that are out there. I want to thank them for their leadership and their unbelievably hard work that they do for us every day. We see them. It's not a 9-to-5 job being a leader of our municipalities and our province. They're out there 24/7. And in my role as an economic development officer, I'm fortunate that I kind of get to leave some of those challenges and tough decisions that government leaders need to deal with. And I get to have the fun job of taking advantage of those opportunities we see before us. Whether working with local entrepreneurs to help find new and innovative ways of doing business, or meeting with investors who are developing new industries in our region, the work I do is all about positive change for our community. And that's why I'm here. I want to introduce to you an event that we'll be hosting soon that is all about positive change and exploring opportunities that exist. And I'll start with this 1-minute video.
Inspiration creates new goals. Innovation sparks opportunities. Investment drives our progress. And when we combine all three, results are amazing. Harnessing the exponential power of collaboration. IQ. Join us in April.
So anyways, first off, I want to point out that in all the videos you've seen today, we put a lot of effort into putting them together. And all of the images you see are images taken here in the Brooks Mill region. We don't use any stock photos or videos, and we're really proud of that. It's an amazing place to come from. So anyways, that's IQ. It's our 2-day conference coming up in April, on April 18th and 19th, that will be combine a variety of presenters, panelists, exhibitors, and investment opportunities. It's designed to spark some new ideas, build on our strong entrepreneurial spirit in the region, and take advantage of our amazing assets: land, water, energy, and people. Visit our website, iq.ca. It's sort of up and running, but it's there. We'll have more information on our speakers and registration details very shortly. But even if it's not working right, it was a great opportunity today. We got your email, so we can send you all an email. So, anyways, that's all I've got to say. Lisa, I think Lisa says she has no more words. So, anyways, thank you very much for coming out today. It was a great event. I think it was a great sort of something that we brought back after a couple years, and hopefully you got a lot out of it. So, thank you very much, and travel safe.